Let's do a preview of Newton's method. This is actually going to be more advanced than we get into in Calc 1, but it's a lot more fun too. Let's show, so we've got some complicated function here. The details of it aren't important, but what we're trying to do is find the x and y values that give the minimum possible function value. Maybe we're trying to minimize cost for business operations or minimize risk for something. So I can grab this point and move it around and see what the function value for any particular x and y is. So if I start up here and I want to minimize, maybe I'll just start decreasing y, and I see, oh, my function values are going lower and lower, but now they're going back up again. Oh, undefined even. So where was it reasonably low? 23-ish. Okay, we'll call it there. And then I could move in the x direction and move until I get a fairly low value. Oh, it went back up again. So there's a lot of computation going on behind the scenes, right? And I want to do as little computation as possible so I get faster answers, especially if this is automated. So I could keep moving this up and left and right and stuff, but there are more interesting ways. One thing we can ask, and this is a Calc 3 concept, is what's the gradient? Now the gradient is the direction of steepest increase if I wanted to maximize this, but I want to minimize it, so this would tell me go the opposite direction of the gradient. So from my point here, the gradient is saying go this way to maximize, so I would want to go this other way to minimize. So I'd keep following, kind of running away from the gradient almost, and when the gradient gets very small, that's like the derivative being 0 basically, so that would be somewhere around here. So that's one way to minimize, but I still had to kind of wander, and I didn't know, like, if I moved over here, how's the gradient going to change? So another thing we can do is show, we can think about what the contours of the objective function are. Like all points on this ellipse sort of thing have the same function value, and then I want to find maybe an ellipse or ellipse-ish thing that's got a lower function value. So that's a good way of thinking of it. But actually drawing this ellipse thing is hard. Let me show you a bunch of them all at once here. There we go. So we want to find kind of where the smallest of all those ellipse kind of things is. But figuring out all the points on the ellipse is hard. We don't get to see that. We don't even get to see the whole single contour or ellipse-ish thing. But what we can do, and here's where Newton's method comes into play, we can say, show me an ellipse, an actual ellipse that goes through this point that has the same curvature at this point as that function. So you see how the curvature is about the same here. And then I could say it's not too hard to find the center of that ellipse. Here I've got it marked. So we're approximating this red ellipse-ish thing with this purple actual ellipse, and then computing where the center of that purple ellipse thing is. And I can just keep moving toward that, and that gets me to the minimum faster than just going away from the gradient. You see, if I went away from the gradient here, I would be moving this way, but really I should be moving more this way. So that's a preview of Newton's method for optimizing 2 dimensions, much fancier than we do in Calc 1, but it's kind of fun. We do that in math 560. Later in the semester we'll talk about Newton's method in 1 dimension in a Calc 1 context.